Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape from Tarkov video. In this one, I'm going to talk a little bit about the debate over recoil versus ergonomics when modding weapons, the benefits to focusing on each, and when you might want to mod for minimum recoil or maximum ergonomics in different situations. To start with, I'll just quickly go over what each of these stats actually do for you, and talk a little bit about the pros and cons for each. Recoil is the simple one. This number affects the recoil of your weapon when you're firing and is affected by your base weapon skill, your recoil control skill, the weapon you're using, and the attachments on your weapon, along with a few other things. A lower recoil number will obviously help you to keep your shots consistently on target, especially when firing full auto and using weapons with a high fire rate or high recoil rounds like the 7.62x51. Recoil is considered by many to be the most important stat when modding weapons, because the advantage is really obvious. Lower recoil means more shots on target during a full auto spray, which in theory means whatever you're shooting at is going to die faster. It's hard to give a magic number for recoil because it feels different on each weapon, but in my opinion, anything below 70 is what I would call manageable recoil, and anything below 50 is what I would call low recoil. There's not really a disadvantage to modding strictly for low recoil, aside from the fact that you'll likely have lower ergonomics on your build. So in many ways, it is kind of hard to see at first glance why you would want to focus on ergonomics. Ergonomics is the stat on your weapons that affects your speed aiming down sights, the amount of noise you make while aiming down sights, the steadiness of your aim, and the stamina drained while aiming with your weapon. This is affected by your weapon's base stats, the mods you use, and the equipment like armor and helmets that you're wearing on your character. Unlike with recoil, the advantages of high ergonomics are a bit less obvious. Being able to aim faster can help you quickly acquire a target. Being able to aim silently helps you keep the stealth advantage at close range, and being able to aim for longer and keep it steadier can help when tracking targets at long ranges. To make it simple, recoil helps you keep your shots on target after you've already started firing, and ergonomics can help you to acquire that target quickly and quietly. I can't tell if ergonomics is affected by every individual point or by breaking certain thresholds, but you can really feel the difference between aiming with 75 ergonomics and aiming with 25. It seems the highest gains come between 25 and 75, with diminishing returns after going above 75 ergonomics. I'll show some quick clips of aiming at each 25 point threshold right now, all using a 4x ACOG sight, so you can see the difference yourself. Now that you hopefully have an idea of what each stat gives you for an advantage, I want to move into what I consider are the three big questions when deciding whether to prioritize recoil or ergonomics. First, what weapon are you using? Second, what kind of sight are you using? And third, what kind of situations are you expecting to be in? Sometimes one of these questions might be enough to help you decide, sometimes you have to consider all three, but in any case, they should help you decide between recoil, ergonomics, or a balance of both. The first thing that affects my decision is obviously the weapon itself and how it performs. If you're using an AKM, which has a high base recoil, you're likely going to want to focus on bringing that recoil down over increasing the ergonomics. On the flip side, if you're using a submachine gun that already has low base recoil, it might be best to focus on ergonomics so you have a faster aiming speed. And if you're using a single shot, high powered rifle, then you have more of a dilemma on your hands. By focusing on recoil, it might be easier to hit multiple shots, but if you focus on ergonomics, it will probably be easier to hit that first lethal shot. The weapon you're using doesn't completely make this decision for you, so the next question I ask myself is what kind of sight or sights am I using? If you're running irons or just a reflex sight on your rifle, then ergonomics might not be a priority. Red dot sights and iron sights drain less stamina while aiming and also naturally come up quicker, so they're less strongly affected by ergonomics gains, though it is still noticeable. If you're planning to use a magnified optic, especially anything 4x or higher, then in my opinion, ergonomics becomes a much more important stat to focus on. on. Aiming speed with magnified scopes at low ergonomics is extremely slow, leaving your vision obstructed while you bring up your scope, which can make target acquisition kind of hard. Low ergonomics also means increased scope sway, which can make precision long-range shots much more difficult. The high stamina drain while aiming will also leave you out of stamina often and limit how long you can track a target. Again, the sight you're using won't fully determine what stat you want to prioritize, but in my opinion, the general rule of thumb is the higher the magnification on your optic, the more you want to focus on ergonomics. The final question that I consider when deciding to focus on either recoil or ergonomics is the situations I expect to find myself in while using a weapon. If I was taking an AKM with a reflex sight into factory to hunt for PMCs, I would put all of my focus into modding for recoil, because at that range, I'm less concerned with the speed of my aim and more concerned with hitting my full auto shots while panic spraying around corners. If I was taking an SA-58 out to the shoreline with a 6x scope to snipe people from the resort roof, I'm probably going to focus on my ergonomics because I want to be able to hold that scope steady for long periods of time to make those tricky shots. Finally, if I was taking an M4 out to customs with an ACOG and reflex sight combo to run around the map clearing areas and completing quests, I'm going to split my focus between both stats because I know I might be taking long range shots, but I also might be having close range fights in the dorms, so I need something that's capable of both effectively. Speaking of the M4, certain weapons in Tarkov, most notably the M4, 416, and MPX, have the pretty distinct advantage of being able to achieve very low recoil and high ergonomics in the same build, which makes them extremely easy to use in a variety of situations. Other weapons can strike a nice balance as well, but these three especially can be optimized for an amazing balance of both. In my opinion, it's optimal to put at least some of your focus into modding ergonomics if it will get you to at least 50 without sacrificing your recoil too much. While I often hype up the benefits of ergonomics, I will say that recoil is in many ways still the more important stat when it comes to actually hitting enough shots to kill someone. The point of this video isn't to say ergonomics is the better stat, but to make a case for when and why you might want to focus on modding for ergonomics over recoil. I hope this video was helpful to some of you, and at the very least offered an explanation of what ergonomics does because it's not explained that well in game. There's plenty of debate around the forums about recoil versus ergonomics, and as someone who believes both of these stats are almost equally as important but for different reasons, I figured I would give my opinion on the matter. Thanks to everyone for checking out the video and dropping by the channel. I stream raids on Twitch at twitch.tv/jdogthewise, and it'd be great to see some more people drop by, so I'll leave a link for that in the description. As always, feel free to leave any comments, corrections, or suggestions down below, and until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City. I'm sure that's Mr. Killer there. Which means he's gonna come out flying around this corner. Whew.